always known when it comes to finding out information, things I've never heard of before. Like, how do I go about doing that? Study. So many questions I found out about came from my studies, my curious nature through academics. Thus, we could talk about motivation, but what have I not heard before when it comes to motivation? Well, let me answer that question. Welcome to Human Athlete. How are you? I hope you're well. You've got a hopefully fantastic weekend coming up for all of us. So I hope you're doing well here. I hope you're doing well here. And again, environment is everything. I might be tipping my hand till later in our conversation, but it is. Environment is everything, and the things you have in your environment, the people you have in your environment, all that stimulus will lead you to where you need to go, where you want to go, where you desire to go, or could very possibly hold you back. So welcome to Human Athlete. I'm thrilled to see you. You know, realizing that we now have even more teammates in the Human Athlete squad. We brought in some more free agents. And quite honestly, I'm thrilled they're here, because what we do in the 21st century as coaches, as athletes, as humans, all those paths come together to build a better environment for our athletes in the 21st century. And really, do I need to say the quiet part out loud? I guess. Beyond. Right? We can build athletes better. How do we do that? And that's what we're here. Thank you for coming here to Human Athlete. And I'm really thrilled that you're interested in what we're doing. This might be the most unconventional motivation conversation we'll ever have. Why? Well, because in all the years that I've heard conversations ad nauseum about motivation, right? And we just went over extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. The details involved in each of those, to me, are interesting. Hopefully they're interesting to you too. What about motivation do we not know? Right? What about those moments when we're like, wow, he's usually so motivated. I'm not sure what's going on. Well, she's usually always motivated. I'm not really too sure what's going on. Right? Today we go rogue into motivation and the approaches that you very possibly have not heard about or heard of. I didn't hear about them until my master's studies and beyond, as I continue to study, right? So this is new to all of us, sort of. I've been through this, but I present it to you in what may be our conclusion for now in the discussion of motivation, right? So let's roll, right? Motivation, simply, is defined as the intensity of one's effort, the direction and intensity of one's effort. That's how motivation is defined, right? It's been defined that way empirically since, the formulation of motivation in 1997. That definition has stood strong. Viewed by psychologists from several different vantage points, right? The intrinsic, the extrinsic, the achievement motivated, right? How about competitive stress? Have you ever thought of that as motivation? Can be, absolutely. So all of these add up, though, to the macro definition of what motivation is. But we can simply and scientifically say that it really comes down to the direction and the intensity of one's effort, right? From the athlete or even from the human, either way, right? life skill transfer. Let's introduce and focus the big three. The participant-centered view contends that motivated behavior is primarily of the athlete's character traits. Consider all the character traits that we can name easily if we were to do that, right? That make up great character, right? Or great character as an athlete. They would be pretty much the same. So this is a trait-centered view of motivation. I hope that makes sense. What their character traits are, right? That contributes to their motivations. They're motivated because of X. They're motivated because of Y. She has this. She has that. He doesn't have that. He has this. So all trait-centered motivation. That's number one, right? It focuses only on the individual's traits and how they directly interact with their motivations, right? It does not consider anything else. It does not consider environment or any other aspects. Trait-related characteristics only, right? So that's another form of motivation. I never heard of that until my studies. So that's one, right? The second one, I might be tipping my hand here, situation-centered view of motivation, right? And that states that motivation is primarily determined by the situation. For example, because it'll be quick for me to say this, when I first started playing football way back in high school, coming on the field the first time, yeah, my motivation was nowhere to be found. Like I was intimidated, a whole laundry list of feelings, right? Situation, right? My motivation was determined by that situation. Eventually it changed, of course, but my motivation was fluctuating all over the needle, right? Here's another example. Sharon's motivated by her aerobics class, but she's not motivated to be involved in competitive sports, right? That's another example. Also, there's many other situations which we are all, right, involved in that we would say are negative situations, right? But even though we sometimes have to go through those situations that are negative, we remained motivated, focused. Why? The situation, right? So when it comes to motivation, the situation-centered view can be very helpful to understand your athletes or even your students if you're a teacher, or kids if you're just a stakeholder or a parent, right? Be very aware. And of course, be careful of the factors involved, right? Every situation is different. We know this, right? So situational centered view of motivation, right? The third is the interactional view of motivation. The interactional view of motivation, it can be tracked back to the exceptional work of Kurt Lewin back in 1951. It remains pretty empirical and peer-reviewed, which means other people have checked it out and it's still pretty solid. Kurt Lewin formulated that behavior. It's the function of the person and the situation. I hope that makes sense. The view contends that motivation results not solely from an athlete's character traits or situational factors, coaching styles, win-loss record, good program, challenging program, not good program even. okay, et cetera, examples like that. But the best way to understand this view of motivation is to analyze these two, right? The athlete human, right? And the situation and how they interact. And it's going to be different for everybody based on, right, the interactional view, the situation, where you're at, personal character traits of the athlete, how those all come together and interact. Knowing these three new motivations, right, and the interactional view, which I'm kind of biased to, for sure, I'll tell you, will help you understand your athlete, right? Your athlete's motivational orientations, right? That influence their performance. As an athlete, and as we all know, because these things are they can transform, right? We can take them where we need to go as an athlete and as a human. And they will determine and help us get a perspective on how that athlete and the motivations that push them to achieve or perform, we can use these to help us understand and help to guide our athlete. Human, athlete, it can't be one without being both.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this.